George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Lateef Johnson-Kinsey is the director of the Mayor's Office to Reduce Gun Violence. He got another hat, too. He's the pastor of the Well of Hope Church, but that's another role. But he, you know what? He's Lateef showing up in the space. And, you know, you get all of it when you get So he's going to be Lateef Johnson-Kinsey. For those that go to Well of Hope, I'm not disrespecting your pastor. He didn't come on as that. You know they would be calling, why he do whatever, you know what I'm saying. But Lateef, so good to see you, brother. Listen, tough week or so here in the Cuse. At the time of our conversation, and by the time they hear this, we will have buried young Brexy Ali Torres Ortiz, and a community is certainly in mourning. I know you had you did the prayer for the mayor's state of the city, and during that prayer, you said, "Let me stop right here and offer a moment of silence for our dear sister." And so, it's in that spirit. I just want you to speak from your heart about what this week has been like for you, understanding this tragedy of young 11-year-old Brexy Torres Ortiz, who was gunned down in a drive-by by 3 gunmen. We now understand 2 have now been arrested, and then there's also the tragedy of that, right? 2 have been arrested, and 2 more lives to be taken off the streets, and then another at the time of this conversation, a juvenile to also be brought to justice. And at some point, again, by the time you see this or hear this, it may have happened. So your reflections on all of this, Lateef.
Yeah, so I you know, it's funny. I read Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, and I really just talked about the healing of in Isaiah. The prophet talks about Zion and a crown of beauty instead of ashes. So even though we look at it and it's a death that didn't have to happen, but Brexy will get her crown. She has her crown, and we now have to find some way to heal from it. And going to the visual, or the wake, as we call it in the African American community, the wake. To see that mom and dad, and to see the mom again. I was there the night that when they pronounced her dead. I was there with her mom, and when I saw her mom's face again, it just for me it triggered some emotions, just because it's still fresh. You know, time flies by, and we all been going home and sleeping. We all been going home and eating. I offered her mom a seat tonight. I said, "Do you want to sit? We get you a seat." She said, "No, I'm gonna stand." That mama been standing probably for the last 10 days, man. Not sleeping, not eating. The dad is just struggling. So, you know, many of us be like, well, let the healing begin. It's hard for the healing to begin. It's hard to hope. But, you know, being a pastor, I'm a hope dealer. That's what I deal. Even in times like this, to give hope to not just a city, but a generation that seems to be hopeless. When you have a 16-year-old, 19 or 18-year-old here shooting, hopeless, wandering, that you saw that 11-year-old, and you still decided to pull the trigger anyway because you were after whoever you were after.
Right.
Hurtful.
You know, and I want to stay on this for a second. This touched us in a way, and this touched us in a very profound way. And you know, they had the community hearing forum. They had the community forum at Tucker earlier this week, and people are galvanized in a different kind of way. And you've been on these streets, Lateef. Tell me what you think is what's happening right now, and will it make a difference, us talking once again about a violence taking not only the lives of Bexy Ali, but now these young men, if they're convicted. And then we also know that another 19-year-old was also shot as well. And I don't know if we've identified that person yet, but there's also that to contend with.
Yeah, are you talking one that shot at the police the other day? He actually
Well,
shot
does
at
that?
the police.
Well, wait, I didn't even get to that. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the
you're talking about the
individual
19-year-old that was shot in the
that
leg.
was
Yeah,
shot, and now and then the 18-year-old and that or 17 or whatever that shot.
Yeah, well,
at,
17. Yeah, at
yeah,
the police.
and when I
it's
saw
confused, so much going on. It's
well,
crazy.
And pivoting to that just for a second, so just to refresh our audience, if you don't know, earlier this week I believe that there was a report of a car stopped or at whatever it was, they went to check on this car, and I guess the young man jumped out of the car and started shooting. And I'm looking at this video and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm thinking, with this young man, like, what's going through his head and what does he think is going to be the outcome of him shooting at law enforcement? Like, what has to be going through your mind as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old shooting at the police?
Right. So that's that hopelessness I talk about. And hopelessness could be looked at in many ways. So one is poverty. We talk about poverty, but sometimes hopelessness is not about money or poverty or status. It's a mindset. You feel there's nothing else for you to do, or you're not even that, you're just hopeless. You're dreamless. You have no dreams or aspirations to do anything else with yourself. Because sometimes it's not even just kids from the hood. It's kids that just glamorize being on the street. And then they get caught up in that mindset that I'm really in this. No, you glamorizing it. Now it gets real for you because you get arrested and you looking at some hard time. So it's hopelessness in the fact that I have no hope, right? So now I replace hope with something else. If it's glamorizing being in the hood, being a shooter, because back in the day it was cool to be a drug dealer, not a shooter. Now it's cool to be a shooter. It's cool to have guns. I mean, these kids are putting guns on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, social media, bragging about what they're doing. It's a mindset, George, that they are in right now. And to find the answer to that, we actually got to talk to them. I've been telling people, have a conversation with them, man. I go to the Southwest with Noble, Jennings Bay. We have conversations with kids that are actually out here doing things, shooting or whatever it may be, talking to them, or just beefing. That's where it starts.
And what are they talking about? So firsthand.
Yeah.
First person.
Digging in.
What are they saying to you?
Number one, they admitted that it's an addiction. Like, yo,
it's an addiction.
I ain't gotta be out here, Pastor. Like, I love it. Like, I love coming up. I'm not in the hood, and they're comfortable with being in their hood. That's number one. The second mindset is, one of the gentlemen said, yo, last summer, I had an incident at the store where I'm walking into the store, he walking out, he asked me like, yo, where you from? I think I know you, where you from? And the dude automatically hit him, didn't even wait. It's a mindset like, dude, he might thought y'all was cousins and play football together. Me and you, we see, you see somebody like, yo, don't I know you from somewhere?
Yeah, where I know you from.
But man, that might be some fire. If he had his gun on, he probably would have shot him. It's a mindset now. So to get them to articulate that and to begin to talk about that stuff is important, because we don't know what's in their mind. You know what I mean? And I don't want to wait till a young man is behind bars to figure out. I worked in prisons. I don't want to wait till, and that's why I knew I was going to leave the jails. I was like, yo, we got to get these kids before they get there.
Yeah.
So it's something in their mind that make them do the things they do. Either it's fear or hopelessness. Again, that hopelessness is important to understand, because when I feel like there's nothing else for me to do but hang on the corner, and now I get addicted to being out here. This is what I do, and they love me. The street, the hood loved me. My friends love me because I don't have a mom. My mom is getting high on. My mom don't love me. My mom don't care. I volunteer for many organizations, going house to house with kids, picking kids up for court, stuff like that. And to hear some of the moms cussing at their kids the way they do. I mean, it's like, whoa, no love at the home. These are the realistic stories that nobody really want to talk about, but it's just the truth. And it leads kids to that hopelessness. And when it's hopelessness, what it does, leaves the door open for something else. So if it's addicted, being on the streets, being in the gang, whatever it may be, it leads to that stuff. So there's a story behind this.
And so it sounds like whatever we know that we've talked about in the past. So here's what we typically say about these things. So you're having real conversations with people who are out here doing the deeds. They're shooters. They're in the streets. Yeah. And the community response tends to look like this. We need more. This is what you hear frequently. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start with the cliches. We need more programs. We need more mentors. We need more funding. We need more community-based programs. We need more centers. Now, last I looked, Brother Lateef Johnson-Kinsey, director of the Mayor's Office of Reducing Gun Violence, and we'll get to the programs that the mayor's proposing in a minute, right? And that I'm not even shading those programs. I'm just saying our response is typically that we need more. But my instinct is saying, but don't we have some stuff? And so then with the stuff that we have, right? Mm-hmm. Why isn't that working? Maybe that's a rhetorical question. If we have all these programs and the young people are feeling hopeless and not supported, and we have all these programs, what do we have to do differently, brother?
So number one, that we did this over the last year, we spent 6 months doing an assessment that's never been done. That assessment shows us what's been going on in the city, from SPD to community organizations, to clergy, to we collected qualitative data, which is that man on the street hearing from the hood what's going on. And then we get that quantitative data also, that data that comes from SPD, Crime Analysis Center. We take all that and put an assessment together it was done by Dr. Tillman, Chico Tillman out of Chicago. He is a White House expert that works with crime, CVIs, community violence intervention organizations. And also we had Pablo Uribe, that is our fellows from Harvard University that works in the City Hall. With those two assessments, the qualitative piece that Dr. Tillman did, the quantitative that Pablo did, what we find out is that a lot of our organizations are not dealing with, let's just use this word, George, the top brass of the hood.
Okay.
The main shooters. So if you're never dealing with the ones that are shooting, not mentoring the ones that are about to do it, or just think they're going to do it, or faking. No, I'm talking about shooters, guys that are in the street. So what we've done is put together a pilot program for the next 10 months that will actually take information from the Crime Analysis Center, meaning they said these are the ones that are involved in some kind of gun violence shooting, if it's just having a gun in the car or being around it. These are our top 50 to 60 guys. We're going to tackle them. We're taking programming, CVIs, community violence intervention organizations. First of all, dealing with the conflict. So number one, if it's beef between two groups, you have to designate, okay, these two groups are beefing. Who are the CVIs that are connected? So you got to have the credible messenger. That's the person that's able to talk to both sides, that's been in the hood all their life.
Right.
Used to be a shooter 20 years ago. That's from boot camp, Brighton Brigade, 110, that can look at a young boy like, yeah, I did that already. You ain't doing nothing new.
By the way, Lateef, how many gangs do we have? Like, we just rolled off 3 that we know of.
Major gangs, I would say, in the city, and this is not off of, I don't want to misquote. Right now, major active gangs, maybe 7 to 10 that are active right now. There are some sub gangs, but active gangs right now, there's not as many, but there's many more, because like I said, it's different than when I grew up in Syracuse, where if you was from Bellevue, you from the 10. If you're from the bricks, you live in the bricks, you're from the bricks. Now, it's like it's like moving parts, because you might live in the bricks, but your mom and them just got approved to move to the north side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, and you're dealing with youngins, 14 to 17. And they're not, it's not drug dealing type of gangs. It's just beefing, conflict gangs. So active gangs, and the ones we'll be working with is like 3 to 4. We're not even going to be working with the 10. We're going to be working with the ones that we know for a fact have issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing that over the next 10 months with our credible messengers who are from the neighborhoods, who are from the street, who understand. And then our CBIs will come in and do mentoring. And the most important part of this is cognitive behavior therapy.
And CBI is what?
CBI is community violence intervention. So these are the interventions that's put in place. Something that Senator Chuck Schumer talked about back in April and May. Something that we were approved by the DOJ for $1.5 billion to create and to support, not create, but more so support the existing CBIs in our community. And those are interventions is, as Senator Schumer said, intervention is not coming on the scene when there's a shooting. That's not intervention.
Right.
You're reacting. Intervention is proactive programming and being very smart about data. So we collect data now. So we know where the shooting, if we have shot spotter, if we know where shooting, we have hot spots in the city, we know where they are, then we target those areas for services. This hasn't been done before.
And this is what the mayor announced during his State of the City. Did he announce?
Yeah.
And what other initiatives to reduce crime that affects the work that you're doing? You said there was a couple of things.
So number one, we deal with conflict resolution, mentoring and case management, and then also CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So our goal with CBT is to get our goal is to get some African American therapists, so kids can see people that look like them when they go for therapy, or what we will call groups or circles, so we can get them into there. And again, we are looking at this as instead of taking one gang, and this has also been done. So when you talk about what's failed, you can't take one gang member out of a gang, give them services, and then send them on their way. They're gonna go back to their homies. So you have to be strategic and get more than just one, but you got to service the whole gang. So our pilot program is going to show that if you service the whole group or the top 5, this is something, even when this is taking me back to my days at Vera House with the MVP program. We talk about athletes that, mentors in violence prevention.
Right.
Getting those top athletes, those people in the school that are popular, to buy into your program, you got them. Now when they go back, dude's like, yo, what we about to do is about to get shaken. Like, nah, dude, I gotta go to work. He said, what you going to think? I got you a job? Yeah, they got me a job, bro. So right. You get the big dogs, like the top brass, to be like, yeah, I gotta go to work. It changes, and I really believe that's going to change. The other thing we're doing is looking at environmental. So how does environmental issues cause crime? So illegal set outs. If you look at poor lighting, there's some neighborhoods with poor lighting. So we have a group that we put together with SPD that's looking at that also, and with DPW. So we can, because, and this is one of my sayings, we have to change the hood back to the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
When you tell a 14 to 17-year-old this the hood, they don't see grandma and auntie. They see the hood. They see blight. They see, trash everywhere. That's the hood.
Right.
We have to make neighborhoods like neighborhoods. Because guess what? Our 14 to 17-year-old shooters is not about to go out to Fayetteville Manly's talking about shooting somebody. They look around, they like, these people telling. This is a neighborhood. This is lives. And
I'm telling. I'm telling.
I'm telling.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we have to get, and so that is really, if we do this environment by design, which we really clean up our streets and, get some lighting, and now bring some vibrance back to our community so people can live again. Because you got aunties and grandmas that live down the way.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the things I fear, and this just popped into my head, was this idea of cameras everywhere, which has been a wonderful tool for law enforcement. Then there's that other piece where are we now under surveillance 24/7 because we've got cameras everywhere, but cameras are crime stoppers because they help us with what we need to do. But at the same time, it just feels like we're under surveillance, right? 24/7. And so how do you balance the need for safety and, and at the other...
So I'm going to explain it to you like this.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you off, George.
Go ahead, cut me off, brother.
I worked in a prison. I worked in a jail, okay?
Right.
I started in, 2002 or 3, and 2005 and 6, they started putting these cameras in. The dude's like, yo, man, why they got all these cameras up here, man? We about to be like, yeah, bro. If you ain't doing nothing, you ain't got to worry about nothing.
Right.
So it's the same thing for the street and for the neighborhoods. If I ain't doing nothing wrong, I ain't worried about the cameras being everywhere. I'm going to the store, get what I got to get and go out. Now, if you out here sneaking, peeking, and doing your thing, yeah, them cameras is on you. I suggest you, go somewhere else. But right. I like the cameras personally, yeah. Because we live in a neighborhood and things can happen. So guess what? And people, our neighbor, our people, if black folk ain't gonna say nothing, that means a shooting happened. Now, thanks if them cameras wasn't here, like Chief Cecil said today, nobody said nothing. So if the cameras wasn't here, we wouldn't have no case right now.
Well, if no one said anything about the shooting of Brexiali Torres Ortiz?
No. Nobody came forth and like, yo, yeah, it was a white car, It was just no.
Nobody said anything. No. Right.
And they saw it and they seen it. They were out there. So you know what? Since we want to, the whole no snitching thing, which is
right. That's the other piece.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So when people say that to me, I'll be like, yo, you sound crazy. Do you know what a snitch is? A snitch is when you talk about, so we go back in the day, Philadelphia, Black Mafia. Snitch was, I'm a drug dealer, my boy a drug dealer. We do something, we get caught. If I tell to get myself out of it, that's a snitch.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And that'll get you capped in the hood. But for me to be living in a neighborhood and I see a shooting or something, no, I'm a witness. This is my neighborhood. And you ain't gonna come around here shooting like this. I'm a witness and I saw something and I'm gonna say something because I'm not gonna let an 11-year-old die out on the corner because she went to the corner to get some milk. I'm telling on everybody what kind of car it was, how many people was in it. And if I know them, I don't care if they was my cousin. Damn that, you going to jail. You just shot an 11-year-old. You going to jail, bro. That's not a snitch. A snitch is somebody that is fearful of themselves, of getting in trouble and want to weasel their way out of time. That's a snitch. But me, no, I'm a citizen. So don't do nothing wrong in front of me. I'm telling.
We were talking with Lateef Johnson-Kinsey. He's the director of the Mayor's Office to Reduce Gun Violence. Several initiatives being announced. And dare I say bold initiatives, right? Because at the same time we're saying we're working with the people in the street causing harm and not arresting them while we're working with them. That's deep, right? Think about that. We know they're doing it, and yet we need them to stop others from doing it. I feel like that's, doesn't that sit like the irony of that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's giving you an opportunity. Young men that's going to be in the program, that's giving them an opportunity to change their life. Now, the other thing is, and I tell people, I have no services for anybody that shoot an 11-year-old. I have no service for you. Go to jail for the rest of your life.
Go ahead.
You killed the baby. I ain't got time for that. Or if you come in the program and here we are in May and you think you about to be tatter and tater and talking about something, I'm going to be hanging out still, but I'm going to be in this program. No, you either going to be looking for a job with us, going to some therapy, being in some groups, working with your mentor, because if we catch you with a gun or anything, you going to jail. It's called the mayor's office to reduce gun violence. This is a government that you're going to be working with. So that means you got to be on the straight and narrow. And we're trying to save lives.
Yeah.
Trying to save lives, because that's what the young men don't understand. This is not a game. You out here playing with guns. Them guns will take your life. So we can get them in this program, give them opportunities. Another one of my sayings is, if it's mayor's office to reduce gun violence, I must expand the ways of them to get opportunities to do something else. Because you can't take stuff away from kids. You got kids. You can't take away toys and then you don't replace them with something. You got to put something else in their hands. And we want to put in their hands opportunities.
What about cash? Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're calling it stipend.
Stipends, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to be calling it scholarship, because I think scholarship is a little more something kids from the hood understand. That like, yo, scholarship, because they got boys that went on scholarship.
Right.
Thing,
like language. Right.
Yeah. So we want to call it scholarship, and give them some, and it won't be a bunch of money, but as I say, and some people argue with me about it, and I'm like, listen, man, I worked for years in prisons in Philly. Drug dealers don't go around shooting people. Sorry, I gotta let the public know that. Drug dealers, if that's what they are, they want to make money. They want to sell drugs. If violence goes up, crime, then drug dealers not making no money. Okay, because we know drug addicts might do petty crimes, but they ain't out here shooting people. Shooters and robbers are different. They're not drug dealers. So we don't have a drug dealer problem. We have an issue with people that's just doing the shooting. So when you take away that gun and you say, I'm going to give you a stipend every week to get in this program.
Scholarship.
Most of the young scholarship, thank you. Most of them going to be like, I'm going to give it a try. And I believe with those credible messengers in place and that scholarship money they'll get, it'll give them enough to say, let me take a chance. Because it got to be something better than what you're doing. And we have to treat it as such. It's an addiction. So we have to treat it as such. But yeah, that's the goal, man.
I'll ask you this. I mean, we've certainly seen what, the clergy, you and, many others in the community, Pastor Draper, Tucker, and others coming together around this issue. So I'll ask you this, aside from Well of Hope that has so many young people all over the place, there's a point at which for a lot of churches in our community, there's a drop-off, right, in terms of a certain age range. Mm-hmm. What is the role do you see of faith communities? I'll say it that way. Churches, or whatever the faith tradition you come from. I know you Christian.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think being I'm in my 10th year of pastor now, going into my 10th year. I think it's being intentional.
Happy anniversary, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's being intentional. So my first job when I moved back to Syracuse and I knew I was probably going to pastor, I said, let me go work in the schools. Pastor Alex is a activist. You have to be about Pastor Jaime is not just a TV on TV, but he is an activist. He's a chaplain for the police department. Pastors have to be multifaceted these days. You no longer can be a pastor that work a part-time job at, a factory somewhere. You got to be intentional about reaching the next generation. So the way I'm able to move about on the South Side and different areas, first of all, I got family that know some of them. But really the biggest thing is I work with most of these kids. I worked at Frazier. I worked at McKinley Brighton. I worked at Corcoran. A lot of these kids, I know their families. As pastors, we have to, so people ask me all the time, like, so what can you do with the youth at your church? I'm like, well, I really don't have a youth ministry at my church. I have a youth community, a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I don't have just the kids in my church.
Right.
So that concept has to get thrown out the window. Our youth department, I ain't got no youth department. Good for you. We got a youth department. Good for you. What are you doing with them? People getting shot around your church. That's not going to work no more. You actually got to go to the youth, and your community must become your youth ministry. Be intentional. And then number 2, you have to be consistent. You can't wait till they start shooting and you want to get out there. One of our things was we were passing out food 4 or 5 years ago. Just passing out food. We have a food pantry. It don't open when COVID hit and we got a food. No, we've been at a food pantry, clothing closet. If you tackle the need of the people, you're going to attract families that'll come. So there's families that come to our food pantry. The mother will come, and I find out the son out on the street doing whatever, shooter, whatever it may be. Oh, you got to talk to my son, Rev. He think he want to be a gang member. You see, now also, the last one I'll say is proximity. I'm going to get close to that kid. I know mom. I'm coming to the crib. You can't be scared. A pastor has to be totally different than what they were 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Talk to me.
So intentional, consistency, proximity. Those 3 things as a pastor in this day and age as a church, if you ain't doing that, you have a church that's dying, because there's no more playing church. And I mean, I get sick when I watch churches on Instagram and they shout and running up front. I'm like, that. Okay, you ain't got the dude from the hood up there. Now, there's some churches that's in the neighborhood. Now, don't get it twisted, but a lot of them watching, it's like it's a show while somebody getting shot on the corner where your church at.
Right.
So we gotta be a little more intentional about what we're doing.
When will these programs that you announced, working with the Community Violence Initiative and the Credible Messengers, when do we expect them to kick off, and how do people apply for them? Or you've already, because of your networks, y'all already know who you're going to have in the program. They've been identified. When does this program start?
So late March, early April, we'll get things rolling. We're kind of just finishing up our budget. We got to sign contracts. We got to go through the bureaucracy of things.
Right.
So, hopefully because we definitely want, by the time that my goal is when the snow melt, we boots on the ground. So before the snow melts, we're working, because we get snow until Mother's Day up in Syracuse.
Okay.
So we want to get boots on the ground, and our first piece would be that conflict resolution. And so that people won't be able to sign up. People have been calling like, "Yo, I want to help. I want to do." Well, we are the Office to Reduce Gun Violence, but we will have programs that some people got great ideas. So I might connect them with one of the CBIs that does the kind of work they do, and say, "Hey, yo, bring this brother on." And what I'll say, if I just have a second, if you have a program, or if you feel you have an idea, know that if you haven't done it already, you want to start it. The best thing you could do is work for another organization to get started. Okay. Don't try to come off the jump like, "Yo, this is my program." You ain't gonna get no funding because you haven't done it yet. Because you got to, and the reason some people say, "Well, how you chose the people you choose?" Well, the people that we're looking at, we haven't signed contracts yet. They have a proven track record of working in the community and doing the work, and they're experts in their field. So that's what we go off of.
Lateef Johnson-Kinsey, the mayor's office to reduce gun violence, in partnership, we might add, with all of us as eyes and ears in the community. We have the ability to create the communities we want wherever we live, right? And so it's not just this neighborhood over here, this neighborhood over there, where we live too, okay? That's one thing, or where some of us live, okay? The second thing is we don't want to leave the program without also acknowledging that we lost another young lady, 14 years old, shot by her dad, another tragic young lady who was killed because of a domestic violence incident in our community. Yeah. So we're lifting up Ava Wood as well in our community. And for the young man who was also the target, alleged target of the shooting of these two that have been arrested, one pending, we're praying for you too, brother. I know you're the silent, it's been all about our young lady, but, we hope that you get the healing that you also deserve.
Yes, sir.
Lateef Johnson-Kinsey, and now for your for your congregants, Pastor Lateef Johnson-Kinsey, Well of Hope Church. By the time they see this, your services are at what time?
9:30, and we're out by 10:30.
There you go. All right. You still on the COVID mission. I love it, brother.
Yes, sir. We're going to stay on that.
Amen. All right. Lateef, so good to see you. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. We appreciate the work you're doing, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Inspiration for the Nation.